Welcome everyone. Today we have an incredible guest, so Elana Freeland. I've recently come across Elana's work and just been blown away by everything that she's been doing. So welcome, Elana.
Thank you so much, Gabby. Gabby, yes?
Gabbi, yeah. I'll read out, just for people that don't know what Elana has been doing over the last decade, her bio, which is really interesting as well. So Elana's worked as a writer, a ghostwriter, a teacher and lecturer who researches and writes on deep state issues like geoengineering, MK Ultra, ritual abuse, targeting and invasive electromagnetic weapons. She is best known for her geoengineering trilogy, Chemtrails, HARP, and the full spectrum dominance of planet Earth. Under an Ionized Sky, from chemtrails to space fence lockdown, and now geoengineered transhumanism, how the environment has been weaponized by chemicals, electromagnetism, and nanotechnology for synthetic biology. Under an Ionized Sky has been translated into Serbian and is recommended at a technical university in Serbia, Nikola Tesla's home nation, and today it is the only book available to the public about how Tesla technology has been weaponized on a planetary scale. Elana came of age in the eye of the 60s maelstrom. Her 4-book series, Sub Rosa America, A Deep State History, exposes the hidden history of America since President John F. Kennedy's televised assassination. Her second major during her undergraduate days was biology, and later she earned a Master of Arts degree from St. John College, concentrating on historiography, basically the art of doing research, and her thesis was awarded honours. So wow, Elana, you've done so much to raise awareness for such a, very hidden topic of, around the manipulation, the mind control that's happening, right from that individual scale of MK Ultra on targeted individuals and quite often vulnerable children, to how that's been sort of relayed from micro to macro to the mass population.
Yes, it's mainly, I think you've struck it. It's mainly the mass population that I'm most concerned about. I'm an intellectual and have been pretty much my entire life. The schooling now is so different from when I was raised, and I was able to develop my thinking to a degree where I also became very observant of patterns in my environment, either physical patterns, but primarily media patterns in the controlled mainstream media. And I'm I'm a child of the 60s, and so we were very rebellious for good reason, because we intuited or otherwise knew that the American empire, Pax Americana, was not good news for humanity. And at the time I was young, Americans were still, and America were still admired around the world as being democratic, as being the place of the Bill of Rights, which is the only document in the world like that. And we were so admired. And yet what was happening in the Cold War in the name of patriotism was so egregious that it took me years to unravel what had happened then. And that's really probably the biggest reason that I have spent 10 years on this latest classified program that we call geoengineering. Most people think of geoengineering, if they think of it at all, as chemtrails, as the spreading of nanoparticles of heavy metals that we're all breathing in, nanotechnology that you can't see, but you have to breathe in because we all breathe the same atmosphere. And that's all true, but it goes so much further than that. I started doing this through, I was collecting all sorts of research in order to write the Sub Rosa America series about what had happened to America since John Kennedy's assassination. And I had a file on chemtrails, and I had a file on HAARP, the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Project ionospheric heater up in Gakona, Alaska. But back then, I didn't even know that they were connected. I mean, that's how ignorant I was of how this technology really worked. And you know, for people who write, I highly recommend that you write a book, because then you will have to learn an amazing amount of material in order to spell it out for lay people in the book. So yes, I learned a lot by writing the first book. And after the first book, Chemtrails HAARP, I was on Coast to Coast, which is an all-night show here in America, hosted by George Norrie. And after the show, I was contacted by a man who said that he was known as the HAARP Man. And he was called that because he was he headed up the team that built this massive acres and acres installation in Gakona, Alaska, that was all antennas, basically, a particular kind of antenna called phased array antennas. And Billy Hayes was his name, and he had headed up that team for that project. And then he had been sent by the CIA, which most people don't realize. The CIA was originally in charge of building HAARP and owned all the patents, along with Raytheon, which is almost a synonym for the CIA, but Raytheon is thought of as a defense corporation, so-called. Billy had been sent all over the world to 240 different American sites to build more and more and more of these phased array antenna installations. So he called to tell me that he'd been told about my book, that it certainly sounded like what he'd been saying for years. And he wanted to share some things with me, because he said, you're going to be writing another book about it. And so I immediately began to hang out with Billy through Skype mainly, and telephone calls. He lived in Kansas. I lived in Washington State. And he began to spell out for me how the HAARP installation up in Gakona, Alaska, which certainly was not the only ionospheric heater, but was the one that had been used to zap the ionosphere, which is all the way from 22 miles to 200 and some miles above us. They had zapped the ionosphere with these phased array antennas at HAARP, because you can make all those antennas. There are, I don't know, 113 installations, I think, where you can make them all focus on one beam, and the tremendous amount of power. And they had broken through the ionosphere and stimulated all the electrons in there inside the ionosphere, and brought those ions down to our atmosphere, because they wanted to ionize our atmosphere for all the wireless operations that they had in mind that they wanted to do. And in order to keep that ionized atmosphere going for all these various operations, these wireless operations, and we're not talking about videos and entertainment and phone calls here. We're talking about full-scale military operations. And they had to spread a lot of particulate matter, which is where the jets come in, that are laying down masses and masses of heavy metals and nanotechnology, and even biologicals are being smeared behind these jets that people think, oh, that's a contrail. But no, it's not a contrail. A contrail is very simple and only lasts at the most for 30 seconds. These are extended long trails of chemicals that are purposely chosen for military agendas. And for a long time, until when Billy and I were going through all the material we had to in order to understand how they were now returning to a program that they had had in the 1980s called the Strategic Defense Initiative, which we all called Star Wars because of the Star Wars series that came out, the movies that came out in 1977. They had tabled this operation because they didn't have control over the ionosphere, and they didn't have control over an ionizing mechanism to keep the atmosphere, the Earth atmosphere, fully primed like a battery or like a massive antenna. And once they were able to have that, they were able to bring back the Star Wars program, which had in it a space fence was the name given to it. And originally it used to be sort of a missile defense system of radar installations that went across the entire southern United States from coast to coast, a big necklace of them. And now with HARP's, with the control over HARP and the jets that would be commercial and military set up to spread this nanoparticulate matter all the way behind the jets and create this very thin, what looks like cirrus cloud cover. Now they were all set to have the atmosphere available for military operations. And so Billy said they're bringing the space fence back, and boy, is it going to be different. And different it is, because it is actually, and the title of my second book, Under an Ionized Sky, from chemtrails to space fence lockdown. I'm very serious about the lockdown. So if I were to translate the space fence for people in what we would experience here on the Earth, because this extends all the way into space, it would be like a smart grid.
Yeah,
I think we've used that term, smart grid, and smart always means computer, artificial intelligence run, and very much something that is not friendly to humans. I'll put it that way.
yeah.
It may be very convenient. It may seem very cool and lots of bells and whistles with it, but it is basically a weapon system. So the space fence was brought back and was developed by Lockheed Martin much further than it had been before. And so we are now in that space fence lockdown. And though people generally don't feel it, I think they feel it in the summer when the heat that is coming from the sun seems incredibly hot. I mean, like cat on a hot tin roof hot. And that is because the primary nanoparticles spread throughout the atmosphere and kept going every day are aluminum oxide particles. And aluminum is very cheap. It has 4 times the surface area of other metals. And they need that up there because you can't transmit communications in a vacuum. you've got to have a lot of particulate matter. So they chose aluminum because it's a desiccant. It's very drying. And that's the story behind why the air feels particularly hot and particularly dry. It's because of the aluminum nanoparticulates up there. So that's what we're breathing. So now we've got tons of aluminum in us. And that's why the numbers are climbing of Alzheimer's at one end of life, and the age is dropping to where people in their 40s are getting Alzheimer's. And then at the other end is the autism of children, which is just skyrocketing.
Yeah.
Aluminum is, a lot of people think of aluminum when they think of inoculations that children are given at the beginning of life, because one of the adjuvants in the inoculation is aluminum. But there's much more aluminum we're dealing with now because we're breathing it. It's in our water supply. It's in the GMO foods, which I believe Australia also has GMO, right?
Yeah.
Because the reason I bring this up, it's a huge issue to me, because Russia has made it a felony to bring any genetically modified seed into Russia. And all the crops in Russia are now organic, because it seems to me that Russia cares a lot more for its people than we in the West are cared for by our leaders. So when Billy helped me do this, I wrote that second book. And then it was during the second book that I realized that I really had to return to the biological, because Clifford Carnicom, who was the independent scientist I had worked with for the first book, Clifford had collected a lot of particulates and detritus in the condensation that he was collecting after the jets would fly over northern New Mexico. And he was also collecting it from his HEPA filter and examining it under his microscope. And he found this disease, a filament which was being called at that point Morgellons. And the Morgellons, a lot of people, when they heard Clifford was examining the Morgellons, which basically was like a black filament, very tiny, but you could see it with your eyes. He spent quite a bit of time trying to break into this polymer sheath that presented itself, and it was obviously coming down from the sky. And we collected a lot of red wine tests where people clean their mouths out really carefully and then sloshed around either red wine or grape juice in order to dye any material that would come out, and then would spit it into a clean glass jar. And I admit that I was definitely aghast when I saw this little black filament, after I had spit into the jar, wiggle its way across the bottom of the jar. Up to then, I think it was all sort of on paper. I really didn't realize what was going on. Yeah, it got my attention. And then next we collected blood from people, and we put my blood under the microscope, and I saw the Morgellons creature inside my body. Wow. From inside my body, eating and sucking out the iron from my red blood cells. So I realized that Clifford was definitely onto something, and he kept very close notes on this, and his notebooks are very valuable for the future. When we have a more honest government, one can only hope. Because he tried to get in touch with the Environmental Protection Agency, with CDC, he tried to get in touch with several agencies in the US government to send them some of his findings. Yeah. He assumed at that time, being naive, that they didn't know what was going on. Meanwhile, they wouldn't respond to him, but he could see from a little software that he had on his computer who visited his site. And it was at times, in a week's time, there would be over 125 alphabet agencies of the US government who would be hitting his site to see what he'd come up with. So how long
ago was that, Elana, with him?
That was about 10 years ago.
Yeah, so interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, and then they took that software down, so they couldn't do it anymore. But that gave him the insight into how classified the program was, and that they were still trying to find out how much he could find out in his time period. Yeah. So I really went from knowing nothing or just having a few notes to the second book extensively describes how the space fence is set up on the Earth and above the Earth in a ring around the planet that looks much like a ring around Saturn. And that ring is composed of a lot of these nanoparticles of metal, all of which are magnetized up there. And so if you can imagine that magnetized there around the equator, and then there's us on planet Earth, and we're sort of trapped between our radar installations, our cell towers, all of the equipment of electromagnetism here on the Earth. We're trapped between these two ends of the space fence. Meanwhile, inside, we have breathed in all these heavy metals and nanotechnology. Now, a lot of that nanotechnology we have not been able to see, because you need a nano is 1/1,000,000th of a meter, and you need electron microscopes in order to see at that level. So, but it was obvious that there were these things, because the Morgellons itself was nanotechnology. Wow. And it's still extant. It's still happening. I mean, I don't know if you remember, but we were seeing the black fibers on masks during the lockdowns, and we were seeing it on the so-called PCR test on the swabs. Wow. It was there as well. Yeah. And now I just received
we've seen it actually come down in rainfall. So in like, you know, a container that's collected water, it's been there.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, it is definitely still being delivered.
Yeah.
And then today I received an article, a little YouTube of how it is actually in women's sanitary pads.
Whoa.
And along with graphene oxide, which is another nanotechnology that we have now determined is going into the serums, being inoculated into people. So we have this delivery system from the sky, from aerosols. And then we know that there's another delivery system, which is the inoculations. And then between those is yet another delivery system, which is the genetically modified crops.
Yeah.
These are all of these three delivery systems are run by, and often people will ask me, well, who are they, Elana? Who are they? I can tell you firmly who they are, and it is the big pharma cartel that has run this world with its illegal drugs, with its pharmaceutical drugs, with all the chemicals used for fertilizer and insecticide, All of the chemicals used for the aerosols that are coming down and that we're breathing, all of this has the paw print of the big pharma cartel. So
big pharma is a part of the military industrial complex when we look at it that way too. So it's one and the same, isn't it?
It is one and the same. In fact, one of the first times we saw the big pharma cartel was in World War I, in the trench warfare in Europe, when an entire generation of European youth was wiped out. That was all chemicals, and it was IG Farben, and IG Farben was the kingpin then. And at the end of World War II, after having supplied the Axis forces with plenty of petrol and various chemicals for warfare, the big pharma was wealthier than ever, and it became it decided to separate itself. It was a little too big. It didn't look good. So they made a few smaller companies like Bayer, like Sandoz, and others in order to, but they still governed all of them because it's like a mafia. And when I realized this, I first realized it during the so-called AIDS epidemic in the 1980s, when I was paying attention to what was going on. And I realized that it was a pandemic, and it was being run. It was started. It had nothing to do with monkeys or anything else. It had to do with a conspiracy of power, and that it was the same people, I suppose I have to call them people, whom we had seen in the previous two world wars. Exactly. It was involved in Vietnam with the chemical warfare there, in Korea, the Korean War. I mean, I have a section in my book, Geoengineered Transhumanism, in which I cover these wars and talk about how one of the reasons for wars is not just profit mongering, but also it's a place to experiment with the latest chemicals. Absolutely. For death and destruction. So
mind control has really, the electronic and frequency mind control has really come out of wartime experiments too.
Yes, absolutely. That's another part of it. And I'm glad you brought that up, because that's just about where we're going to go. I'll go through quickly the geoengineering operations that are happening. A lot of people think it only has to do with as a palliative for global warming, climate change. We need this geoengineering. It's much more than anything to do with the weather. But it's the first thing first operation that is completely a done deal now is weather engineering. All the weather that I know of is all engineered. There is no natural weather. And we have not had natural weather for, I'd say at least for the last 10 years. Yeah. So that's part of it. Those clouds that we see in the sky, whether they're the cirrus kind or the ones that puff up like storm clouds or any other type of cloud, they're all made of plasma now, and plasma is created with particulate matter and heat and the chemicals. So I don't think, no, in fact, I haven't seen a real cloud, the real clouds of my youth, when I used to lie in meadows and make things up that I saw in the sky. Yeah. That is long gone. So weather is the very first operation. Then there are electromagnetic and chemical operations that are going on, where people are seeing perhaps spirals in the cloud and in the sky, seeing meteors. They say that they're meteors, but they're not really. They're actually plasma experiments going on. So there's that. And then there are planetary changes that are being made through geoengineering. One being, and this I think will surprise people, one being the so-called fires, the so-called forest fires or wildfires or whatever they call them. These are, not only are they started from high up in space from satellite, but they are also run by guys on laptops who are pretty much controlling all of the nano robots that are sent in phalanxes or swarms to burn this house, but bypass that house, and burn this tree and bypass that tree. And so they're able to pick and choose what they want destroyed or not. So that's a pretty big surprise. I'm sure this is true. I can prove it 6 ways to Sunday. And that is also in my book.
You've actually experienced that in Australia, Elana, where they've burnt through an area where they want to put a high-speed rail, which is very much part of the space program.
Yes, I followed that fire.
So we were like, yeah, we're onto this. Well, it's just incredible. And when you were talking about HARP before, I just thought I'd let you know is we've actually got a HARP station in Australia. It's in Exmouth in Western Australia, and it's run by, you guessed it, like Raytheon, Australian Federal Police, and the military and Navy.
That's right.
It's well, yeah. Some people actually,
yeah, in Australia and New Zealand and Canada and Britain and the United States are all part of the Five Eyes.
Five Eyes, yeah.
Or what used to be called Echelon. Yeah, they all scratch each other's backs, so you might say.
Network.
Yeah, but the part that I think you missed, which is super, super important, is that these fires are run by nanobots. That's incredible. This nanobot and nanotechnology revolution is it is probably the most dangerous technology I know of. In fact, I would say that this is the second Manhattan Project, is nanotechnology, because okay, so it's inside of us, and yes, it's in the soil where they can call up billions and trillions of these nanobots that have been laid through 10 years, 20 years, almost 30 years now of the geoengineering delivery of nanotechnology. They can call it up in order to serve as minions running fires, but in our bodies, the same thing can happen. They can be called up by 5G and 6G systems to sabotage us from within, to deliver things that are perhaps being deposited by inoculations. And then once it gets into our body and is in our blood, then the nanobots are programmed remotely to pick that communication up that is coming in through the inoculation and carry it to the rest of the body, or more perhaps just to the kidneys or to the brain, or whatever. So this is really, to me, my main concern, especially now that the doctors and researchers are finding this technology that I've been talking about for some time. They're finding it in the serums, and they're finding it in the post-inoculation people, in their blood. So now it's obvious that there are computer components that are being injected into people. And these computer components then sort themselves out once they're in a warm environment like the blood, and they put themselves together into routers, into all the components you would need for communication device. And it seems to me that that part is sort of upstaged by the mRNA part, which is the genetic alteration that is being done through these inoculations. But that's going on at the same time. But more striking to me as I study it more and more is this insistence on 5G systems. If you recall, during the lockdowns of the last 2.5 years, the busyness of the white vans, at least in the US, would pull up, and workmen would jump out, and they would be getting up those 5G antennas everywhere they possibly could, as fast as they could, because this 5G, and I always add 6G to it, because the 6G, whereas the 5G is millimeter waves, which are bad enough, the 6G will be terahertz, and that will just rip our DNA to shreds. So this system is being put in place so that the first transhuman generation, which I believe now is underway through those who have had at least had 3 jabs, that they will be run primarily by 5G and 6G systems, especially when I saw how much graphene oxide they're injecting into people's blood. The graphene oxide is well known. It's coming down from the sky. It's in as you were saying regarding the Morgellons, it also is in the precipitation that's coming down, and so graphene oxide is in so many things today because it is probably the greatest conductivity agent that they have, and so it also is self-replicating, much like Morgellons. Morgellons is self-replicating as well, and so that can get into the blood, and eventually, I believe what they want to happen is that when they have it all done, said and done, with their remote control over this transhuman generation, the graphene oxide will have become, through a process called teslaphoresis, it will have become the nerves in our bodies. It will replace our nerves, which are natural human nerves, with a machine type of nervous system. And that will be the arrival of the first generation of transhumans. So what of the rest of us? Well, certainly we are being, if we have chosen not to have inoculations, then we certainly are not in the clear yet, because in our environment, and we're breathing in the graphene oxide, and we're breathing in the nanotech, and we're breathing, et cetera. So I'm sure that they're still working on that aspect in order to capture the rest, because what they really don't want anymore at all is an actual human race that is anchored in nature and in spirit. What they want is a slave class of human cyborgs, much like the Borgs. Is that what they were called in
Star Trek? It always reminds me of that. It's like the predictive programming for us. It really is such a multifaceted attack on human consciousness.
Very much so.
Through, frequencies, heavy metals, these self-assembling molecules. And it all comes back to mind control, doesn't it? They want to destroy human free thought to make us control.
Well, Yeah, and one of the most fascinating parts that shows how devious and intelligent they are, and how dedicated to this they have been, I can only imagine, for the past 100 years, is the fact that they keep saying that there is this condition which has a virus. I guess I'm not supposed to say that word either. And that virus has never been isolated.
Exactly.
We have no proof that that virus even exists,
Exactly.
or the SARS, et cetera. So what's going on there? Well, what's going on is something that I myself have now experienced, which is they're changing molecular biology to digital biology. And what that looks like is, first of all, if there is no virus, and I highly recommend Thomas Cowan, MD's book, let me see if I've got it here. Yeah.
History.
The Contagion Myth.
Mm-hmm.
This is the book where Tom points out in many ways how the germ theory of the West is completely bogus, and has instead served those who want us in a fear condition forever to make profit from us. So, all right. So what they're doing now is, imagine that they can, because they can do this, imagine that they can transmit by 5G and 6G through an algorithm a set of symptoms to you that is then picked up by the nanobots in your body and spread throughout your body to basically make you feel sick.
Yeah.
But you had there was nothing like we had yesteryear, when you would feel a little tired and you'd have this slow advent of some symptoms, and then you'd be in bed with chicken soup or with tea or whatever, and then you'd rest and you get a lot of sleep, and then you'd find your way up and at them again, because your immune system would have kicked in and handled everything, and now you're on your way again. Now, if it's being sent in digitally as a transmission, an electromagnetic transmission, and it's only the symptoms, you will get it like that. Wow. There is no lead up there, because it's not a sickness. It's a set of symptoms digitally imposed on your body. And I had this happen on my book tour in April. I was attacked. I was targeted in Los Angeles, where I had just arrived. I had 5 talks to give in 10 days in Los Angeles. And so I had these different hosts who were taking care of me. And I was, they were very kind. And there were all kinds of people who wanted to meet with me to talk. And what happened instead was I was so hit by the digital imposition of a set of symptoms that weren't identical to the famous that we've been dealing with now for 2.5 years, but were enough like it that I was tired all the time. I could not sleep enough. I would try to hold food down, and I would projectile vomit everything up. And that was 7 days of that. Wow. I couldn't eat. I couldn't be around people, not because of contagion, because, well, I don't believe in contagion. That's not what happens. And it certainly was not what people kept wanting me to say it was, because it wasn't. I could tell that it was being electromagnetically transmitted, because I've been targeted before, so I know what it feels like. So anyway, I have experienced it now, and this is what people will have to watch out for, because if you get a set of symptoms that's just like that, with no lead up, that is natural, then you probably are in a transmission mode. And for those who have been inoculated, they will be almost completely controlled with no way out unless they make conscious what I'm saying. Because the last thing one would want to do is check into a 5G, 6G smart hospital.
Exactly. Stay right.
That is the last thing. Yes. So, so what I did instead was, I had these obligations. I had these 5 talks I had to do. The sky looked like science fiction over Los Angeles. As I arrived, people were teasing me that I'd brought it with me. I think they probably were right. And I was in this control chamber. And all these people were, oh, well, you're older and the tour is hard on you and you're traveling. And no. That wasn't it at all.
Yeah.
But I was made more vulnerable by all of those things.
Yeah.
But it was not that what was happening to me was very different. So I want people to remember I said that it is now being proven again and again and again by those who are digging into the serum and the post-inoculation blood, that there is a communication system being set up with those who undergo the inoculation. And for those of us who are not inoculated, we too can be vulnerable.
Absolutely, we can.
To digital biology. So we have to be very alert and not jump to conclusions out of fear. I think fear is probably the worst thing that can overtake us in this war, this spiritual war that we're in now. To salvage true humanity that is based in nature and in God. So I'll take a pause there. I think I've laid out some of the major ideas that this latest book goes deeply into.
So incredible. Thank you. It just, it's so much to take in, but it makes so much sense. You're just pulling together so many parts that I've seen presented by various professionals and people that are speaking out, whistleblowers, and connecting all the dots. So, just incredible. And it just reminds me of, we had Satanist Michael Aquino in the 1980s talking about how they were going to use this ionosphere, how it was important to have this electrified atmosphere for this mind control and the psyops that were rolling out. And we are in those times. Like, it's just...
Oh, yes. Michael Aquino. I have in this book, in one of my appendices, no, it's actually in another part of the book where I have mindsets. I go through several mindsets that it's important people realize these mindsets do exist. And one of them is the satanic mindset. And I do discuss Michael Aquino's incredible role in changing our American military. He had massive power, and our military now is pretty much split between what is called the white hats and the black hats. But the satanic element of, and for those who just bandy that word about like it's just a Halloween word, no, it's a religion. It's a religion of the will. A religion of power, and it has its gods, its dark gods, and it's having a field day in America, and I would assume in Australia as well, because people don't have any inner life anymore, and so they have no resources by which to gauge when you are now in a realm, or a realm has been loosed in your society that has nothing to do with just being lawless, but has everything to do with some sort of spiritual, diabolic target practice going on with human beings. And Michael Aquino is, I used to be afraid to say his name because I knew two people who were absolutely destroyed by him.
Wow.
I knew them quite well. So I did not think it was a joke by any means what he was able to wield. But when I was, what was I talking about when you brought up Michael Aquino about the, something I wanted to say.
He spoke a lot on
the ionosphere.
Ionosphere and using that for mind control in his military psyops.
And he obviously was an insider who understood quite well. I mean, you know, there's a lot I could say about him, but anyway, yes, the ionosphere is absolutely controlled now by certainly NATO forces. And I always say this, the wrong finger is on the button of geoengineering, because a lot of the weather that's going on now, from the fires to, you know, bizarre rainstorms and everything else, this is all geoengineered as a way to drive the West further and further down.
Yeah.
And so unless, I mean, could I say anything good about geoengineering? Well, if it were in different hands, exactly, there are some advantages to geoengineering if you have the right people running it, which we don't. So just to put that forward. And what else?
I think it's like everything, you know, these tools, these technologies, they could all be used for such different things. You know, I look around at the world today and just think, with all the efforts that they are going to now to, you know, isolate people's DNA and be able to like hook them into the World Wide Web, etc. Like, imagine if we actually used these technologies for the good of humanity, where we could be. But it's not the case at this stage. We're really living in an open air human prison.
Well, and I think that we can kind of discuss a little bit about how we can meet this kind of era that is so criminal, because the power of the technology is so great. It's very attractive and tempting to those who want more power. And the rest of us, we have been lulled into a kind of stupor by the thought of having such fun toys and convenience, comfort, entertainment, and these we've been terribly taken advantage of, and now our very lives are at stake, and the very future existence of a human race based in nature and the divine is now obviously at risk. I mean, I do not stop. When I was younger, I wanted to be a great writer. I wanted to be a great fiction writer, like Nias Nin or others, and I read all the classics. I had vocabulary lists. I studied. I mean, that's all I thought about, was I was going to be a great writer, because I'd had some talent since I was 8 years old, when it was the first time I was accused by my teacher of plagiarism. She thought I copied the story somewhere. That was great. So I thought I would do that, but instead I'm in an era of that's terribly risky for, I mean, the arts. Come on. I mean, America is the worst place for the arts, in my opinion. And I don't see any real art here anymore, because we're fighting for our spiritual lives, because most Americans don't even have one. They are materialists. They are cynical about the political landscape. They're taking drugs. They're taking either illegal drugs or over-the-counter drugs or prescribed drugs. And so, you know, those of us who are awake to what humanity could be, and I don't know if you know this, but I'm a student of Rudolf Steiner, have been for 45 years. Used to be a Waldorf teacher. And I very much believe that humanity is involved in a process of evolution. And that evolution is dependent upon our beautiful planet, planet Earth, and our relationship with natura, with nature, this highly divine force that makes it so that you can put a seed into the dirt and a whole life form comes out of it. I mean, if that isn't amazing, I mean, I don't know what our problem is, that we don't realize how alive this planet is. Instead, we treat it like a dead department store for resources, and we let the power mongers just have whatever they want, as long as we have our toys. So obviously, those of us who realize the divine challenge here have to work 24/7 now in order to bring to bear the insight and the knowledge that those who are willing to be awake, because it hurts to be awake in some ways. It hurts to wake up. It hurts to stay awake. You have to really be dedicated. You have to be committed. And, those are the people I'm looking for, and why I go on radio interviews and give talks in places and write books. So I really feel that this is all a very concerted effort. This is not just because these people don't know any better. This is not just because they want more money. It's not a matter of money for the Klaus Schwabs of the world. They have plenty of money. No, it's that they want to thumb their nose at the gods. They want to take the place of nature and turn the planet and its inhabitants into machines, and therefore undermine the divine that has its own plan for humanity, its own plan for planet Earth. And that's what this fight is all about for me. That's exactly what it's about for me, because I understand. I've had experiences of the divine since I was a child. I was raised by my Romanian Roma gypsy grandmother and my grandfather. And for her, the divine was everywhere, omnipresent. And that could be the good divine and the bad divine. It was not just the good divine. She was a peasant and worked very hard all her life and came to America thinking this was the greatest country on earth, but soon realized that there was some darkness here. Wow. And I remember the day she told me in Romanian on the bus that she had tears in her eyes. Dracul has come to America, she said. And Dracul, of course, I knew who that was. Mm-hmm. So I have to admit, Grandma was right. And it was through Operation Paperclip. If I were to choose how Dracul got into America, I would have to say it was the fact that Alan Dulles and his brother, John Foster Dulles, engineered bringing paperclip Nazis into America, thousands of them, and ensconced them in all of our institutions. And that, it was all as if the Third Reich simply moved house to North and South America.
Yeah, they also come into Australia in very much the same program too.
Exactly.
It was just new names. It's all over. We'll just go into the corporations.
Yes, and I don't know how else it could have gone, given that it was the end of a war. We'd been driven into 2 wars, and the bloodbath, the human sacrifice, call it what it really is,
exactly,
was tremendous. And the dark forces took advantage of the naivete of people who wanted to be good, but really were not prepared for such a technological era as we're facing now. And now there's no easy way out. We're going to have to go through it. So if I were to say to people what they could do for to help themselves, let me just
That would be
talk
amazing.
primarily about the uninoculated.
Yeah.
Let's start there, which is easier.
Yeah.
So when from the title of the book, where I say how the environment has been weaponized by chemicals, electromagnetism, and nanotechnology, okay, all for synthetic biology. But those three things, let's take a look at that. To live with those technologies in us and around us, because now it is in us.
It is.
The electromagnetic waves are moving through us no matter where we are, whether we're rural or in the middle of an urban center or a suburb. It really doesn't matter, because the atmosphere is fully ionized now, yeah. and they're dumping every day in order to keep it ionized. So to live in an electromagnetic environment filled with nanoparticles and nanobots and nanotechnology, how does one do that? Okay, so the first thing to do, if you're really serious about taking care of yourself in this era, is to examine your relationship with electromagnetics. Look in your home, your apartment, wherever you live, and examine the technology that you own. I have never owned a television, nor do I own an iPhone, nor have I ever owned an iPhone, nor will I ever own an iPhone. These were created by the military, just as the computer was. And it is a weapon system.
Yeah.
Now I have a computer, and it's the only weapon system I own. And I keep various Wilhelm Reich materials around it in order to ameliorate the radiation that is constantly coming off of it. So, all right, that I have a landline, and people leave messages. And if I want to find out the messages and I'm not home, I can just dial a certain number and I can hear the messages. So, I mean, and then what everybody says to me is, but Elana, what if there's an emergency? Well, there might be an emergency, because we have lived thousands and thousands of
Without
years.
them.
And we have had emergencies, and we have figured it out, or we die. I mean, it's like, okay, so that's not good enough in my mind to own a weapon system that can be used against us. How can it be used against us? Let me convince you of that. Okay, so the cell phone, let's take the iPhone. It has many app features on it. And these apps always make it sound like they only do one thing. The truth is that the military has all the frequencies that you could ever imagine on your cell phone. And they have absolute control over all those frequencies on your cell phone. You have no privacy whatsoever on that cell phone. And mainly what happens is the AI systems are simply being fed masses and masses of your data. That includes your biometrics, because all of the nanosensors that you've breathed in from all of the trillions and trillions of nanosensors that are dumped daily in the stratosphere, there are a lot of them in you that are picking up your biometrics and communicating them, because these are communication systems, communicating them to AI systems, whether it's a guy on a laptop or it's the data center down in Utah, I don't know, or in your case in Alice Springs would be where that would be happening, or Exmouth. So that's how that works. Okay. So if I own more than one weapon system, I should get rid of the other two. And I am definitely saying to people, you definitely want to get rid of your TV because it is not what you think it is. It has amplifiers on it. It has microphones. It has cameras in it that you don't ever see. It's picking up everything that's going on in your home. And you definitely do not want that thing in there.
And I heard about with TVs too, like the latest versions with the plasma screens. I mean, I haven't had a TV for 15 years.
Those are the worst.
The plasma actually teaches your body, like it's like biometric, like it's like your body starts responding to that screen. So the frequency tech goes into you further. So it's constantly evolving in this control.
It reminds me of that David Cronenberg film, Videodrome.
Oh, I don't think.
Oh my, if you've never seen it, oh my. Yes. In fact, I would say what you just described is exactly what he showed back in when the film was made in 1990 or something. It's very old, but it's worth seeing. David Cronenberg, he minces no words, boy, with his images. All right, so that would be the first thing, is really examine your electromagnetics. Where you sleep should have, in that room, should have no electromagnetics, not even a clock radio. It should be your citadel, your altar for your leaving your body at night when you go into REM sleep and heading to the stars, where we are all from. I've actually had experiences of doing that, so I know it's true. You do not want a bed with metal springs in it, even if you like jumping on the bed or you like it for various recreational activities. No, you don't want that, because those are antennas and they will pick up the waves that are moving through your home, no matter how well you protect yourself. Okay, so that's crucial, because the pineal gland in the brain, the third eye so-called, is very much targeted by the technology being used against the human race. They are attempting to tear down our immune system and our pineal gland. These are the two primary targets in the human body, not really the brain. The brain they have access to quite easily, because if they have your,
they probably already feel they have control of most human brains with all their propaganda.
Yes, they do, because it's very easy for them to get your evoked potential by the EEG machines they have on the satellites. And according to Arthur Furstenberg, the author of a very good book called The Invisible Rainbow, which is a history of electricity, there are approximately 475,000 satellites up now. All right. So even if there's only half that number, they can do a lot. And so your pineal gland and your immune system are crucial. All right, so that's that. Now let's look at your diet. A lot of people are eating out, eating a lot of GMO foods, not thinking about it much, not thinking that the seed used for those GMO foods is completely unnatural, was made in a lab, and is turning you into a transhuman meal by meal. So, to eat organic, yes, eating organic is not a panacea, but at least, because of all the stuff coming down from the sky onto open fields of organic,
we can't.
But the seed itself is natural. This is from nature. You're going to have to think of the details of things now, because the devil hides in the details, always.
True.
So if I'm nitpicking, if I'm such a nitpicker, and I am in my book, I have over 1,000 footnotes, it's because I want you to pay attention to the details and make the right decisions, and not wait for the experts to save you. They're not coming.
Absolutely.
I can promise you that.
Yeah.
And the ones who come, maybe you shouldn't trust them.
Great.
Because they may not know, even the best among them, the most spiritually advanced among them, may not understand this technological move that has just recently been shown. So for foods, remember this rule. The nanotechnology in us, the nanobots, you may think of them as just little machines, which they are, but because they are made by laying one atom next to another atom, next to another atom, next to another atom, because they are made at the atomic level, they are not just machines. They have a consciousness, as does everything at the atomic level, even the so-called atomic bomb of the Manhattan Project back in the 1945. Yes, it had a consciousness because it was made at the atomic level.
Wow.
The atomic level is right next to quantum dimensions,
Exactly.
which are always conscious. And not that doesn't mean, conscious does not mean necessarily our friends. Consciousness can also mean anti-human consciousness. So let's be a little cautious here. We can mix our spiritual with our technological because they do have to do with each other. They do. And you can find your own relationships, just as I find my own relationships. So the nanotechnology, because it is alive and has a consciousness of some sort, and not alive in a biological sense. I don't want you to think that. It is not biological, but it is what they call, and there's a patent for it, called inorganic life. Wow. Now, wrap your head around that, because that's what these nanobots are. They swarm. They're like a hive of bees, or like the birds in the sky that all move together, a school of fish. They are a collective consciousness, a swarm consciousness.
Like a hive mind kind of scenario.
Yes, and that's the problem, is if they're in us, they are sent to wait for their master's voice, is the way I put it, for the remote messaging to them that they are now to move, and they are now to, like what happened on my book tour, they are now to take over my body and make it sick, where I can't eat for 7 days, by being able to control these swarms, which is what these laptop boys can do, then that puts us in imminent danger. So eating acidic, and most junk food is all acidic. Most GMO foods are all acidic. All of the acidic foods feed them and make them stronger and us weaker. So please, please, please look at your acid alkaline balance in your diet and learn. If you don't know how to cook and you're an adult, learn to cook. Learn to make your own food. Don't just nibble your way through life like a mouse. Really give yourself good food, as much of the vegetable kingdom as you can. If you're a meat eater, instead of buying the cellophane wrapped meat in the supermarkets that most children think just come from there, and they've never seen a real cow now, find relationships with people who are growing their own animals, and you can make some sort of arrangement. Do your best to find as natural a food as you can, because we're trying to keep a natural human being. And eating is part of this. It isn't just technology, it's also what we eat, what we put into our bodies, the body being the temple of the living spirit.
Yeah.
So I've been a health nut. I'm 75 years old. I've been a health nut
You look
all my life.
fantastic, Alana.
I know,
I
because I'm a
guess.
health nut. I'm a health nut, and my consciousness. I keep my consciousness lifted, even though I study dark things and unpleasant things. My intent is pure,
Yeah.
and my intent also keeps me with youthful forces. I haven't been to a Western doctor, an allopathic doctor, since I was 13 years old. I studied Chinese medicine when I was in my 20s. I use Chinese medicine with my children. I use it on myself, not herbs and things, but yin yang. Yin and yang are simply acid, alkaline, and I heal myself. I know what to do when I feel like I need a little help and whatever, and I cook. I prepare good foods for myself because this is my temple. It is important. So those are the basics. Then the final one that I would emphasize is an inner life. If you don't have an inner life, well, I don't know that you're going to make it, because you've got to have an inner life. There is no way to save the divine in the human if you do not feed the divine in your own human. So it doesn't mean that you have to join a religion or go to a church or a temple. It is all about asking yourself, why am I here? What am I supposed to do? And how am I going to go about it? And there is no one on earth who doesn't have those three questions. There is no one, because we all need to know the answer to those three questions before we leave here in death. So I'm very clear on why I'm here. I'm thrilled to be here. This is a war worth my skill.
Yeah.
And we've been thousands of years ruled by elite bloodline families who have very, very dubious connections to their own spiritual world. So this is the most overt I have ever seen them. When Klaus Schwab gets up there and his little minion, what's his name? That the guy that is always saying that, I've got to memorize his name because I can see him in my mind. These Satanists are dedicated to exactly the opposite of what I'm dedicated to.
Yeah.
And I have no doubt that it will not work for them ever. But meanwhile, we can lose a lot of human beings. What if we lose them and they can't return as per reincarnation? What if there is a software or a chemical combination that once injected into people separates their soul from their body? What if that is possible now? That is one of my greatest fears.
Yeah.
All right, so let me go to the inoculated now, and all of the things I have just said about the inner life, dietary, technology, and what was the other one? Technology.
Is that diet, technology?
Well, whatever it was.
Yeah.
That all applies. But now there are ideas coming out of what people who have been inoculated can do for themselves. I'm still watching it and collecting. I have a file called Remedies And I will be putting that into, I'm actually going to create the second edition now for a company called Inner Traditions. And I will be putting a remedy list in that will be quite extensive, because I want people to have that, and I'm not convinced they'll be able to have it on the internet. So I don't have any panacea at this point, and I can honestly say that if the mRNA gene therapy has changed the genetics of the inoculated, then there's really nothing to do now, but there may be something to do for any progeny who comes from that, because we now know that genetics is not at all a death sentence. It is not something you can't change. You can change a lot of your genetics, but it requires real knowledge, not of allopathic medicine, because they don't know anything about that, but of perhaps the old medical systems that, like Chinese medicine, where you can eat a certain way and take care of yourself a certain way, and your genetics change. I did that, so I know it can happen. I had in my family lineage, there was heart problems, diabetes, possibly schizophrenia, and cancer. And when I took myself in hand at 21 and changed my entire diet to something more Eastern, I suppose you would say, in order to rebuild my body, I then I spent 6 years eating that way so that I would not have to worry about cancer and all the rest. And I haven't spent 5 minutes worrying about any of it, because my genetics are fixed. I can fix it. So for those people who have undergone the genetic treatment, mislabeled something else, don't give up hope, because every system can be regenerated, except perhaps the nervous system. That's what makes me a little nervous, because the nervous system is difficult to rebuild. But let's keep our eyes and ears open for things people are doing to salvage a really wrong and misled choice.
Absolutely. It really was information control, mind control of the general population that has forced so many into it's just a decision made without the right information. So I really feel for all of those people. And I too, like you, I've witnessed in my own journey with my health and recovering from being a survivor, our bodies are capable of incredible rejuvenation and healing if we give them the right space. We're in the right mindset. We devote ourselves to healing and to having that compassion for ourselves. It's really amazing what we can achieve. So let's pray that there is solutions coming forward. Well, that was fantastic, Elana, and thank you so much for those solutions as well. I just thought it's the way you teach is so beautiful, because it is such heavy and confronting topics that we're talking about now, with military mind control being rolled out literally around us and within us. But I love that you focus on what we all can do, and there's some really simple solutions there. And I guess at the core of all those, it's about us taking our power back, about us taking responsibility. No more leaders, no more false leaders. It's up to, I believe that's, the
and I would have to add, no more allopathic medicine. I really would.
Yeah.
It's a waste.
Yeah.
It's a waste until it gets out of the germ theory.
Yeah.
And the cut and dice and the drugging. This is an industry of sickness. and they promulgate sickness. And now they have these smart hospitals that are all 5G and 6G. I mean, excuse me. So I wanted people to know how to get the book, because in Australia, of course, it's like a major challenge. Oh, it's terrible. But the black and white is at Amazon and through booksellers, but the color edition is through a little tiny bookstore in Seattle, Washington, called the Rudolph Steiner Bookstore.
Wow.
And they carry the color edition, which is about $15 more than the Amazon version. But I was not able to get the color version done by the print on demand people without charging people way too much. So I have this funny little system now. And I just wanted people to know that the color, there's 60 illustrations, and the color is better, but you know, the black and white does all right as well.
I'll pop the link for Elana's book in the video description as well, so it's nice and easy for everyone to connect and find that as well, and Elana's website as well. Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for your time today, and I'm sure I will have you back. I just feel like, whoa, you know, I researched quite a bit into this area myself, but you've really just pulled so much together. So thank you, and thank you for all you're doing to be a voice of truth in these times, and you know, helping people find their way back to that inner connection with source in all they do as well. It's really beautiful.
Yes.
You're doing both, so it's wonderful.
And thank you, Gabby. Yes, this is wonderful. Thank you.
You are so welcome. We'll chat again to you soon.